Let's get through these now. 4 steps to success. Number 1 was gathering good ideas, good health ideas, good business ideas, time management ideas, leadership ideas, communication ideas. Hopefully we'll have a good menu these 2 days for you to choose from to load up your notebooks with ideas. But second, you need good plans. Tomorrow we'll talk about a game plan in our time management session. Plans to achieve. Ideas gather dust. They don't produce at all by themselves. It's like philosophy is not the end. Philosophy is the beginning. Philosophy must be invested. When I talked about philosophy, attitude, and disciplines, they must be invested. And if you invest philosophy and attitude in disciplines, then they produce results. Here's a good phrase. Wisdom uninvested in labor is wasted. Wisdom uninvested in labor is wasted. Attitude, even the highest of attitude, which is faith. Faith uninvested is wasted, produces nothing. So the name of the game is not faith. The name of the game is not philosophy. The name of the game is to put faith and philosophy into activity so that it starts making progress. Turning nothing into something. Let me give you that formula. How do you turn nothing into something? Here's how you start. There's 3 steps to it. Number 1, imagination. And we'll really talk tomorrow about setting goals, dreaming about the future. What do you want? Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? What do you want to be? What do you want to have? And try to imagine yourself in those new, worthwhile, unique positions. So imagination starts to change everything. Now, imagination is not tangible, but it is almost real. Almost real. It's not real, but it's almost real. But it's hard to say that imagination is nothing. But it's nothing in terms of tangible. It's not tangible yet. And you always have to say yet. Imagination is not tangible yet, but it is the beginning of turning nothing into something. It's the beginning of turning nothing into reality. Imagination. Imagination is the ability to see things that don't yet exist. The ability to see what does not yet exist. Imagination is real in the sense that it affects. It'll affect your behavior. It'll affect your enthusiasm. It'll affect your emotions. It's real in that sense, but it's not real in the tangible sense. But to turn nothing into something, you start with imagination. Next is faith. To believe that what you imagine is possible. How do we start to strengthen our belief in that what we imagine is possible to turn it into reality? And there's 2 or 3 ways. One is to believe your own testimony. If you've done it before, why couldn't you do it again? If you've done it once, couldn't you do it the second time? Why not believe in your own testimonial? If I did it before, I can do it again. I was rich by age 31 and broke by age 33. But now my question was, could I do it again? And the answer was yes, of course. I lost the money, but I didn't lose the skills. And that's what's important about personal development. You can lose the money, but not the skills, so who cares about the money? Unless it's getting late, right? And you're like 90 and it's a little difficult to go back to the streets. But hey, once you've got the skills, you own the skills. It's like sales. A skill is more valuable than a sale. Sometimes a salesperson says, I need a sale. I said, no, you need a skill. Sales are temporary. Skills are permanent. So we start with imagination, which is almost real. It's not real yet. It's not tangible yet, but it's almost real. Now we move to faith to believe that what we imagine is possible. So we study our own testimony. If we've done it before, we can do it again. Here's what else we study. Other testimonials of somebody who did it. Somebody that built a hotel said, yes, I started with some plans and finally believed it was possible, and here it is. Say, well, if it's possible for one, it's possible for another. In fact, sometimes when we hear the testimonial, here's how they finished. If I can do it, you can do it. See, that's a classic testimonial that gives us now what we call faith. And one of the ancient wise writers said, faith is generated by what we hear. Faith is generated by what we hear. The vocabulary of what we hear, the vocabulary of what we read, that generates faith, to believe that it's possible. Now, faith is not reality. You can't say faith is nothing because it affects. It's like radiation. To us, it's nothing because it can't be seen. But radiation is so powerful it can kill you, right? You can't see it, but it has an incredible effect. And that's true of faith. Faith can't be seen, right? With the natural eye, it can't be seen, but it has an incredible effect on your attitude, on your behavior, on your disciplines, on your work for the day, and all the rest. So faith is tangible in that sense, that it affects the emotions, it affects the drive. But we still don't have a hotel. Even though the imagination is very powerful, and even though faith is very real, we still don't have a hotel. because faith is not a hotel. Now it's almost. It is so close. Here's what one writer described faith. Faith is a substance of hope. Now it's not a substance like a brick being a piece of the hotel, but it's almost. It's so close, it's substance. And the writer also said it's so close, it's evidence. Now, not evidence you can see, but tangible evidence that's just as real as all of our human experiences that can't be touched, can't be seen. It's called the unseen magic. Language is the unseen magic. It can't be seen. The words can't be seen as they're transmitted from the speaker to the one who listens, but it can have a profound effect. That means it's more than nothing. Language is more than nothing, and our next big subject is going to be communication, how to affect other people with words. But to create something out of nothing, we start with imagination, then we move to faith, which believes it's possible, which is almost real.
You must take 100% responsibility for your life and your results. And what that means is you have to give up all blaming, all complaining, all excuse making, all looking out at the world and saying, well, if the world were different, then I would be better off. We go through all these things where we say, if it wasn't for that, if it wasn't for the war, if it wasn't for him, if it wasn't for her, if it wasn't for the economy, then my life would be working perfectly. But there's a little formula I learned that's very, very powerful, and it really is the basis of everything I teach. It says E plus R equals O. And what that stands for are the events in your life, you have a response to them, and that creates outcomes. And everything in your life that you experience, whether you love it or you complain about it, is an outcome of how you've responded to earlier events. For example, if I put $200 in front of you and you go out and party with it, a month later your net worth hasn't increased. But if I put that $200 in front of you, that's the event, your response is you invested, and then a year later maybe it went up to $250. So now your net worth went up. Same event, different responses. Basically, it's not what people say to you, it's not what they do to you. The world's just out there worlding, it's not personal. And if you want a different outcome, because E plus R equals O is like 2 plus 2 equals 4, and if you're not happy with 4, you've got to change your response. The word responsibility means you have the ability to change your response to something other than what you're currently doing. And if you would do that, you would get a different outcome. Does that make sense? Yeah, so basically we are responsible to change our behavior until we get the outcomes we want. And that's kind of an experiment. You never know if something's going to work or not. Maybe you're distant from your spouse and you try a new communication technique you learn in a workshop and it works. You go, ah, great. Or maybe you try and it doesn't work. Well, there's just about 500 more you could try. You know, you could read Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, Children Are From Hell, one of those books. And just kidding. But you know, there's so much out there, so many good techniques. And unfortunately, most people don't experiment with trying on new ones. Life should be approached as a huge experiment. And you just keep experimenting until you get it right, okay? What happens is, literally in life, this is what stops most people from being successful. One of the things is that they would rather be comfortable than do what's required. Anytime you do something different, it's uncomfortable by its very nature. Now, most of you remember learning to drive a car. You were probably awkward, you know, you forgot to hit the clutch when you hit the brake, but after a couple months you're there driving with your knee, you got a Big Mac in your left hand, you're breaking up a fight in the back seat with the kids with your right hand, no big deal. But you have to be willing to go through that awkward, uncomfortable stage. And most people, unfortunately, won't do that. And so they get locked in what we call their comfort zone. So what I want you to do is to realize that life is an experiment. You have lots of responses that are possible, and I'm going to teach you some of those new ones perhaps that you can apply to your success. So there's 3 kinds of responses. Number 1 is your behavior, what you do and say out loud. Number 2 is your thoughts. Number 3 is the images you hold in your head. Those are the only 3 things you have any control over in your life. What you say and do, the thoughts you think, and the imageries that you hold inside your head. The reality here is that your thoughts affect your physiology. We just saw that. The brain wasn't designed to lie. It was designed to perceive truth and organize truth and express truth. Then things work. Otherwise, you're called psychotic or you're called a liar and gets in trouble and so forth. So what happens is when you say, I can't, you actually weaken yourself. You weaken your resolve. You actually change your physiology, become less resourceful. You're less capable to actually do the thing you're saying, I can't. So it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So what happens here is when you say, I can't, when you lie, when you focus on your failures instead of your successes. And when you surround yourself with people who are judgmental rather than encouraging and empowering, it actually has a physical effect on you. So that's how powerful thoughts are. We see that our thoughts affect us and other people's thoughts affect us. So we have to be very careful where we place ourselves and who we hang out with and who we surround ourselves with.
If you find your passion, you're going to have this tremendous energy. It's sustainable energy. But momentum requires you always do the next thing to keep the momentum going. And the reason you get yourself in a passionate place is so that you change your life, and the only thing that changes your life is making a decision. So while you're in this passionate state, that's where you make decisions. You don't make decisions when you're like, oh, I don't know, what do you think? All right, let's decide. If you make a decision in a state without momentum, if you make a decision from a place where there's no passion, you are not going to get momentum. It'll kill momentum. It's decide, commit, and resolve. Some of you, in the past, you've gotten momentum, you've gotten passionate, you've even made a decision, but a decision is the first step. Decision is like a war. I gotta do this or that. All right, I'm gonna make myself do this. But commitment is when you now, after you've decided, you commit to do this for the long term. Whether it's hard or easy, doesn't matter. You're doing this. It takes it from this moment and it carries it into the future even when things are difficult. And the third state is resolve. Resolve means it's done. It's like, it doesn't even if you took action, it's done inside you, so it's done out there. There's no question whatsoever. Then once you decide, the only way the commitment and the energy and the momentum continues is if you take immediate, massive what, my friends? Massive what? Write down in your notes, massive action is the cure-all. Massive action is the cure-all. If you're having a difficult time with something, your relationship isn't where you want it to be, your finances are not where you want to be, your body's not where you want to be, your business is not where you want to be, you need to take massive action. And if that doesn't work, try something else. If that doesn't work, try something else. Keep going with massive action and you will find the way, because it will give you momentum.